Sing of seas we cross, and there we'll be reminded our hope is not yet lost. Next year, in the shade of olive trees, planted with each other, Beit Selem Elohim. Dayenu, a miracle will be in Jerusalem, our Jerusalem. Next year, in our Jerusalem rebuilt. Next year, in our Jerusalem. Next year, from the rubble we will rise, and when the smoke is cleared, we'll meet each other's eyes. Next year, in a place that we call hope, we'll defy the odds and build a world we've never known. Dayenu, a miracle will be in Jerusalem, our Jerusalem. Next year, in our Jerusalem rebuilt. Next year, in our Jerusalem. להיות חופשי בארצנו. Next year, in Jerusalem.
Good evening, Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
I'm so glad that we can be together this evening on a beautiful day here in Pittsburgh. It is wonderful to welcome you as we begin our service in song and in prayer, recognizing that these are the intermediate days, Kol HaMoed Pesach, the days between the holidays of Passover at the beginning and end, as we recognize the story of our ancestry, that we were freed from bondage in Egypt, connected with God in a moment of revelation, and were sent forward to bring those values into this world. Avadim Hayinu, those words can be found before you as well as on the bottom of your screen if you're joining us at home.
Avadim hayinu, hayinu, ata b'nei chorin, b'nei chorin. Avadim hayinu, ata b'nei chorin. Avadim hayinu, ata b'nei chorin, b'nei chorin.
And we begin our service in our prayer books this evening. We are on page 2 as we kindle the lights of Shabbat, and it is a pleasure to invite forward Kim and Dave Rulo in honor of their anniversary, happy anniversary, to kindle these lights. We are on page 2, 21.
Wow, impressive.
My marriage is old enough to drink. And boy, you need to.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech ha'olam asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lehadlik ner shel Shabbat.
Amen.
All of you was like Kim sitting in my knees.
Amen, brother. Congratulations. Thank you both. It has been our custom at Temple for years to combine the singing of Kiddush, our blessing, welcoming Shabbat, with the lighting of candles. We're going to move it to the end so that we might get to share in the sweetness of the day, as well as the blessing over motzi, or, well, on any other week, challah, tonight, matzah. I'm sorry you can't escape it even here, that we might combine those two Shabbat table blessings together before we head off to our meals that we are, or the nosh that we will enjoy following our service. For now, we invite you to turn in your prayer book to page 16. Because on page 16, we find the continuation of Psalm 98, raising a song to our God.
Samru l'Adonai bechinor, bechinor v'kol zimra, b'hatzotzrot v'kol shofar. Hariu lifnei hamelech Adonai, zamru l'Adonai bechinor, bechinor v'kol zimra, b'chatzotzrot v'kol shofar. Hariu livnei hamelech Adonai, Yiram hayam umlo, tevel ve'yoshveva, neharot imhaucha v'yachad harim yeraneinu, lifnei Adonai kiva, lishpot haaretz, yishpot tevel betzedek, ve'amim b'meisharim. Yiram hayam umlo, tevel ve'yoshveva, neharot yimchaucha v'yachad harim yeraneinu.
We continue now on pages 20 and 21, there finding words of Lecha Dodi, welcoming Shabbat, or a personified version of it, into our hearts and into our lives. We continue on pages 20 and 21 with stanzas 1, 2, 5, and 9, and we invite you to join us.
Lecha Dodi likrat kala, penei Shabbat nekabela. Shabbat nekabela Shamor וזכור בדיבור אחד השמיענו אל המאוחד אדוני אחד ושמו אחד לשם ולתפארת ולתהילה לך דודי לקראת כלה פני שבת נקבלה לך דודי לקראת כלה פני שבת נקבלה לקראת שבת לכו ונלכה כי מקור הברכה מראש מקדם נסוכה סוף מעשה במחשבה תחילה לך דודי לקראת כלה פני שבת נקבלה לך דודי לקראת כלה פני שבת נקבלה התעוררי התעוררי כי באורך קומי אורי 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 שיר דברי כבוד אדוני עלייך נגלה לך דודי לקראת כלה פני שבת נקבלה לך דודי לקראת כלה פני שבת נקבלה
We invite you to rise as you are able.
בואי בשלום עטרת בעלה גם בשמחה ובצהלה תוך אמונה ים סגולה בואי חלה בואי חלה לך דודי לקראת כלה פני שבת נקבלה לך דודי לקראת כלה פני שבת נקבלה
Passover breakfast. The way I see it, there are really only two types of people in this world. You can lean into it and have matzah brie, or some type of matzah apple kugel, or matzah and cream cheese, or matzah and butter, or matzah and matzah. Or you can lean away from it and have fruit, or eggs, or yogurt. There's probably no in between. As you turn to your neighbor, as you wish them a Shabbat Shalom, would you share into which camp you fall? Are you a matzah and matzah person or an anything but this time of year? When you are ready, I don't know if that made you hungry or less hungry, depending on how you feel about this point of Passover. We turn our prayer books to page 25 as we continue our greeting, having welcomed Shabbat, having welcomed one another. We turn to welcoming God's angels to pray with us this day.
Shalom Aleichem, Malachei Hasharet, Malachei Elyon, Mi Melech, Malachei HaMalachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Bachem l'shalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei Elyon. Mi Melech, Malachei HaMelachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Baruch Hu ni l'shalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei Elyon. Mi Melech, Malachei HaMelachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Tzeitichem l'shalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei Elyon. Mi Melech, Malachei HaMelachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu.
We continue now on the bottom of page 27, and I would invite you to join me in the English. Entrances to holiness are everywhere. The possibility of ascent is all the time, even at unlikely times and through unlikely places. There is no place on earth without the presence.
Yitzgadal ve'yitzkadash shemei Rabbah, be'alma divrach irutei ve'amlich malchutei, b'chayeichon u'b'yameichon, u'b'chayei techol Beit Yisrael. Bagala, bagala, u'b'zeman kariv, ve'yimeru amen. Yehei shmei Rabbah mevarach, le'alam u'lam me'amaya, yitbarach, yitbarach ve'yishtabach, ve'yitpa'ar ve'yitromam ve'yitnasei, ve'yithadar ve'yit'ale ve'yithalal, shemer kursha b'richu, le'ela min kol birchata ve'shirata, tushbechata v'nechemata, da'amiran be'alma, ve'yimeru amen.
We continue now with our Baruch Hu praise, page 28. And we'd again invite you, if it is comfortable for you to do so, to rise as together we join in prayer.
Yai lai lai, yai lai lai lai, yai lai 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 lai, yai lai lai, yai lai lai lai, yai lai 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 lai, yai lai 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 lai, yai lai 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 lai. Yai lai lai
together on the top of page 33. As you taught Torah to those whose names I bear, teach me Torah too. Its mystery beckons, yet I struggle with its truth. You meant Torah for me. Did you mean the struggle for me too? Don't let me struggle alone. Help me to understand, to be wise, to listen, to know. Lead me into the mystery. Baruch atah Adonai. Ohev Amo Yisrael, pages 34 and 35.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad, Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto Le'olam Va'ed.
We invite you to be seated as we continue on page 36.
ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודך, והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבבך, ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת בם בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ובשוכבך ובקומך, וקשרתם לאות על ידך, והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך, למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי, והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים, להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אדוני אלוהיכם, אמת.
On Passover, we begin counting the days from the Exodus from Egypt until the reception of Torah on Mount Sinai, making our way from freedom to responsibility. Those two concepts are combined in the prayer we have on page 40. We recall the Exodus with words of Mi Chamocha. We recognize that freedom is still yet to be won in this world and that we have a responsibility for being part of it. We continue offering these words from the book of Exodus on page 40.
מי כמוך באלים אדוני, מי כמוך נדר בקודש, מי כמוך באלים אדוני, מי כמוך נדר בקודש, נורא תהילות אוסף אלה, נורא תהילות אוסף אלה, אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד, מלכותך ראו בניך, בוקע ים לפני משה ומרים, זה אלינו ויאמרו, זה אלינו ויאמרו, אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד,
As a Jewish community, we continue to count. We count not only those days of the Omer between Passover and Shavuot, but we now enumerate 204 days since October 7th, more than half a year that hostages have been held by the terrorist organization Hamas in Gaza. As we have done since, we add our prayers on their behalf as we turn to page 42, asking God's shelter of peace and protection in this broken and troubled world for all who may be in need. We continue with the words on the screen, the English, a special setting of this prayer.
Spread the shelter of your peace over us. Guide us in wisdom, compassion, and trust. Ashkiveinu Adonai, Eloheinu l'shalom, v'hamideinu shomreinu l'chaim. Save us for the sake of your name. Shield us from hatred, sorrow, and pain. Ashkiveinu Adonai, Eloheinu l'shalom, v'hamideinu shomreinu l'chaim, l'chaim, l'chaim.
A bit of levity into what I know to be a heavy portion of our service. This wasn't designed as an eye test, and I apologize for the user error that shrunk the final line of this prayer. We've begun the process of crafting captions for those who are participating online. To get the text from here to there requires 44-point font, which is enormous on your computer screen, but not the 114-point font you are used to seeing. I made the change, I copied and pasted, I forgot one step in the process, and I apologize to each of you. This week's Haftarah portion comes to us in the book of Ezekiel, where Ezekiel is raising those dead bones around him, proving that nothing is impossible from his mouth, from God's mouth, through his hands. And I was told, O mortal, these bones are the whole house of Israel. But the bones themselves questioned, could this possibly be? They said, our bones are dried up, our hope is gone, we are doomed. Whether we understand this story literally or whether we understand it metaphorically, those words, our hope is gone, have lived in the Jewish conscience not only for thousands of years from the book of Ezekiel, but Avda Tikvatenu was transformed by Naphtali Herz Imber into perhaps more familiar words, Od lo Avda Tikvatenu, part of the poem that would later become Israel's national anthem. It's not, as Ezekiel tells us, or those bones said, that hope is lost. Al ha'hefek, the exact opposite. Hope can never be lost if we are going to continue to do the work that we need to do in this world. And with that sense of hope in her heart, Hannah Yerushalmi writes, our national pastime as Jews does not come in the shape of a ball. There's no season to it, no heroes, no playoffs, and certainly no winner. There's no before and after, no rise and fall, no substance, it seems, to it at all. But it is everything, and it lives minute to minute, renewing itself along the way. Through reeling pain, thick darkness, and numbing loss, it guides us on unknown paths. Our national pastime, a blessing, and a yoke around our neck is the simple act of collecting hope, something we strive to do time and time again, even when it feels most impossible. We ask God's companionship on that walk of life as we reach for hope, as we treasure it wherever we can find it, as we continue to bring it into this world. We turn back in our prayer books, drawing strength from Shabbat on page 44.
ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם, ברית עולם ביני ובין בני ישראל, אותי לעולם. כי ששת ימים עשה אדוני את השמיים ואת הארץ, וביום השביעי שבת שבת ויהי נפש, שבת שבת ויהי נפש.
On pages 46 and following, we continue with our Shabbat Amidah. We invite you to again rise in body or in spirit, or body and spirit, as we continue in prayer.
Adonai sefatai tiftach ufi yagid tehilatecha. Adonai, open up my lips that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu v'Elohei Avotenu v'Imalteinu, Elohei Avraham בוני הכל, וזוכר חסדי אבות ואימהות, ומביא גאולה לבני בניהם, למען שמו באהבה. מלך עוזר ומושיע ומגן, ברוך אתה אדוני, מגן אברהם בעזרת שרה. אתה גיבור לעולם אדוני, מחיי הכל אתה רב להושיע, מוריד הטל, מכלכל חיים בחסד, מחיי הכל ברחמים רבים, סומך נופלים ורופא חולים, ומתיר אסורים, ומקיים אמונתו לשני עפר. מי כמוך בעל גבורות, ומידה מלך, מלך ממית ומחיה, ומצמיח ישועה, ונאמן אתה להחיות הכל. ברוך אתה אדוני, מחיי הכל. אתה קדוש ושמך קדוש, וקדושים בכל יום יהללוך סלה. ברוך אתה אדוני, האל הקדוש.
We continue with the remaining traditional blessings through page 60, adding the silent prayers and meditations that can only come from our own hearts. When you have finished your silent prayer this evening, we invite you to be seated.
Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha, Tasim Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha, Tasim Tasim Leolam. Ki ata melech Adon lechol hashalom, lechol hashalom. Ki ata melech Adon lechol hashalom, lechol hashalom. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha, Tasim Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rav טוב בעיניך לברך את עמך ישראל, את עמך ישראל, בכל עת ובכל שעה, בשלומך, בשלומך, שלום רב על ישראל עמך, תשים, תשים לעולם, לעולם, לעולם.
With that sense of peace held in our hearts, we turn in our prayer books to page 253, there finding words of Mishaberach Lecholim, our prayer for those who are ill. If you are thinking of friends or loved ones, that we might bring a measure of prayer, a measure of healing through our kindnesses, through our visits, through our actions throughout the week. We invite you to offer their names if you are comfortable at this time.
Emmett Pritchard.
Jason Levy.
Hilda.
The people of Israel, Gaza, and Ukraine.
Hilda Hadley.
Francis Williams, John Paul Mahovsky.
Shirley Kahn and Anna Schwartz. Lee Weiss.
Jean McAllister and Carolyn George.
Kay Daniel.
And George Harrigan.
Spencer Abrams, Jeffrey Abrams, other people.
Aurora Romano.
Heschel David Ben Zelda.
Baruch atah Adonai, Rofeh HaCholim. Blessed are you, God, who brings a measure of comfort to all who are ill. And together we say, Amen. Page 253.
Mishaberach Avotenu Mekor HaBeracha Leimotenu. May the source of strength, who blessed the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say, Amen. Mishaberach imotenu mekor haberacha lavotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of the body, the renewal of the spirit, and let us say, Amen.
If you were a fan of former President Donald Trump's first couple of years in office, the frenetic pace of his social media-driven public policy prescriptions, and the 24-hour news coverage of what he last tweeted was likely cause for celebration. If you were among his detractors, the onslaught likely felt overwhelming and anxiety-producing, causing those who opposed his agenda to look this way and to look that way without the time to develop a concerted, cohesive response. It took some time to understand that the disorienting nature of President Trump's actions were part of a plan, a smokescreen covering the actions of his administration. I worry the same phenomenon is happening today, in plain sight, yet somehow outside of our view. Today's news cycle, at least when it is read through Jewish eyes, and today's conversations are dominated by images of tent encampments and protest zones set up at universities nationwide, set up more than 6 months after the events of October 7th, when Hamas terrorists and Gazans caught up in the frenzy committed a list of atrocities too disturbing to delineate while young people could be listening. So why now? Maybe today's young people are literal fair weather protesters who have waited for the weather to get warm before taking this stand. Maybe they are parroting the behaviors they see from others who are gaining notoriety or who are looking to start a movement. Or maybe they're being cynically stoked and keeping us distracted from the true threats to the Jewish community. Let's step back for just a moment from discussions of whether university administrators are doing enough or whether engaging the police is the brutal behavior that protesters claim. They're important questions for an emergent concern. But just because they're the urgent question doesn't mean they're the most important. I'm reasonably certain that Benjamin Netanyahu isn't going to see a protest encampment at Columbia University and say to himself, gee, I was wrong. I'm less certain that Hamas isn't going to continue torturing its remaining living hostages because growing numbers of college students signal their tacit support for terrorism. But I can't believe Hamas is paying too much attention either. I also don't think the educated heads and advisory committees of major universities are going to heed calls for divestment from Israel in ways that would economically damage the world's only Jewish state. So let's try to pull back the curtain and peer through the smokescreen and see what's really going on here. First, at the heart of these protests and the coverage thereof, I worry that we're seeing a shifting definition of who gets to define anti-Semitism. In previous years, and with every other minority I can think of, representative members of that minority group themselves get to define what is hurtful, what is isolating, and what endangers their community. That right appears to be slipping away from the Jewish community with potentially damaging consequences. To have others, pundits, protesters, even a non-representative sample from within the Jewish community, tell us what makes us less safe, just can't be right. Yet it's happening in conversations and social media posts and opinion articles left and right, efforts to decouple Judaism and Zionism, to define what makes a good Jew versus a bad one, outright gaslighting about the reemergence and utilization of classic anti-Semitic tropes. It's all a daily occurrence that would apparently be okay if we weren't so sensitive or colonialist. This, unlike a bunch of college kids living in tents, this is a problem. Second, we're living through a period when the stock of the Jewish people is being driven down to near record lows. Jews have fallen out of favor here in America, as evidenced by skyrocketing acts of anti-Semitism and vandalism, as evidenced by what's taking place on these college campuses that were once so friendly to Jews, Emory and Columbia and the University of Michigan, as evidenced by having the community that proclaimed itself stronger than hate after the tragic events of October 27th, 2018, being the same community to renominate an elected official who has been no friend to the Jews. Loss of favor in America portends a troubling spiral of eroding norms, if not our rights and our protections next, decreasing our visibility and our protections and our physical safety until that becomes a real problem. Finally, these events happening on college campuses are threatening the Jewish future in a way that these protesters can't even begin to understand. Once upon a time, when dinosaurs roamed the earth and yours truly was attending college, and if you're laughing because you think about how recently that must have been, this will be true for you too. It was considered cool to be Jewish on campus. Going to Hillel was where one started to craft their own Jewish identity outside of their parents' watchful gaze. Pledging a Greek fraternity or sorority, as oxymoronic as Jews in Greek life being a positive thing was where Jews made their friends. And statistically, demonstrably, feeling cool being Jewish on campus has led to more interfaith partnerships leaning toward Judaism than away from it. Now, however, I understand the experience of being Jewish on a college campus to be one of keeping a watchful eye out when entering a Jewish space, of losing rather than gaining friends because of one's opinions, and of too many people leaning out rather than in. Unlike college kids pitching tents and beating the drums of their own self-righteousness over the world's most morally complex problem, that becomes a real problem. Don't get me wrong, simplistic yet loud calls to globalize the Intifada and divest from Israel coming from student bodies and their academic supporters, those aren't great, far from it. But I can't help but think they are part of a smokescreen in front of the larger issues at play. Losing control of the definition of anti-Semitism, diminished and diminishing perceptions of Jews, and driving Jews from collegiate experiences that we know to be important to the Jewish future. These are the things on which we need to be laser focused. We need to maintain that focus. We can't imagine a time when that hope would be lost. It's not, in the words of the prophet Ezekiel, Avda tikvatenu. It's Odlo Avda tikvatenu, in the prescient words of Naftali Hertz. Hope is not yet lost. We must have hope, and we have to continue letting that hope drive our actions. So certainly, call your elected official if you want to. It feels urgent. But also make a call to DoorDash and have lunch delivered to the hardworking Hillel professionals on that campus that you care about. Come to think of it, you may want to give them a call first, too, to let them know it's coming. And please, send an email to your alumni association if you think they will listen. It feels really important. But also send an email to your niece in college who's going through something really difficult right now, and tell her how proud you are of her Jewish identity. Those of us who feel physically safe and emotionally able need to be visible and unrelenting, and above all present, unwilling to be driven out of the conversations about what constitutes anti-Semitism, unwilling to be driven out of public spaces, unwilling to stop expressing pride in Jewish identity to all of the Jews who so need to hear it during their most formative years. Our national pastime, Hannah Yerushalmi wrote, that we read but a few moments ago, a blessing and a yoke around our neck, is the simple act of collecting hope. Od lo avda tikvatenu. We must hold those bits of hope tight. We must use them as pieces of light as we stare through the smokescreen of the news to see what is most important. It's not student encampments that are eventually going to end without their objectives met that worry me. It's the underlying world that allowed those protests to come into being that concerns me and needs your focus and your attention and your care visibly, publicly, proudly, loudly, continuously focused on that which is important to Jewish survival. We must not lose hope. Shabbat Shalom. We turn in our prayer books now back to page 282. As on page 282 we find words of Aleinu L'Shabeach, giving us a chance to stretch, giving us a chance to stand together in prayer. The bottom of page 282, we invite you to rise.
Aleinu l'shabeach la'adon ha'kol, la'teitz gedula li'yotzer bereshit, shelo asanu kegoyei ha'aratzot, velo samanu kemishpechot ha'adama, shelo sam chelkeinu kahem, v'gor aleinu kechol ha'monam. ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא שהוא נוטה שמיים ויוסר הארץ ומשב יקרו בשמיים ממעל ושכינתו זו וגופי מרומים הוא אלוהינו אין עוד אמת מלכנו ופסולתו ככתוב בתורתו מידעת היום והשבות אל לבבך כי אדוני הוא האלוהים בשמיים ממעל ועל הארץ מתחת אין עוד ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד ושמו אחד.
You are welcome to be seated. As we turn to page 294, page 294 for words of Kaddish Yatom, our mourner's Kaddish, we remember those who have gone before us. We remember those of whom we are thinking in this period of Shloshim, Shirley Barish and Alan Brufsky, William Fisher, Philip Kennedy, and Robert Landman. And we mark the yahrzeit, the commemoration of the passing of Martha Y. Berman, Benjamin B. Bremen, David Bremen, Bennett Allen Burston, Linda Bushkoff, Irving Cantor, Eric Cantor, Dorothy Cohen Davis, Alan Demmel, Gerald Diamond, Arthur J. Diskin, William H. Drummond, Emmanuel Dime, Lillian Freeman, Frida Friedman, Helen Gazzo, Rochelle Gerber, Gertrude Raphael Goldman, Philip A. Herman, Albert Hillman, Morton Israel, Will Joseph, William Kiley, Olga Klein, Bernhard Lieberman, Marie Leuchrich, Albert London, Melvin Mollinger, Herbert Mark, Benjamin Melnick, Tibby Morris, Ethel Riesberg, Elizabeth Sarah Schmerling, Alois Al Schneider, Phyllis Schneider, Alan Simon, Helene Solomon, Paul Stamen, Rose Rodney Stamen, George Teplitz, Gertrude Wiseman Thomas, Doris Cooper Weiner, Philip Weiner, Frida Weissman, Esther Watsman Wiseman, and Herbert Zuckerman. If there are others you are remembering on this Shabbat, or if I have inadvertently mispronounced the name of a loved one, I would invite you to share their names at this time. Yehei zichronam livracha. May their memories be for us an everlasting blessing. We invite you to rise in sympathy and support and solidarity with those who mourn, as together we affirm these words on page 294. Yitgadal v'yitkedash shemei rabbah, v'alma divrach hirutei v'yamlich malchutei, b'chayechon uv'yomechon uv'chaye d'chol Beit Yisrael, ba'gala v'zman kariv v'imru. Amen. Yehei shemei rabbah mevarach le'olam v'lamei maya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh v'yithadar v'yitaleh v'yithalal shemei d'kudusha b'richu le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata tushbechata v'nechamata damiran be'alma v'imru. Amen. Yehei shalama rabba min shemaya v'chayim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru. Amen. Osei shalom b'mramav hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru. Amen. May God, who makes peace in the highest of heavens, make peace for us and for all who mourn. And together we say, Amen. You are welcome to be seated. Before we conclude our service, we have some liturgical business to take care of, numbering those days between Passover and Shavuot, the counting of the Omer, the barley harvest offered in the ancient temple, this reminder to count our days and make certain that every day counts. I have the words for the song we're going to sing that I completely forgot to put on the screens before you. Next week, I owe you an IOU. The font will be big enough to read, and the words will be up there.
לקיים מצוות העשה של ספרת האומר, של ספרת האומר, של ספרת האומר, של ספרת האומר. 7 שבתות תמימות תהיינה, 7 שבתות תמימות תהיינה. ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם, אשר קידשנו במצוותיו וציוונו על ספרת האומר, על ספרת האומר. 7 שבתות תמימות תהיינה, היום 4 ימים לעומר.
We turn now to words of a concluding song that we do have, recognizing again that we are in this period of Passover, the intermediate days, praying for good days ahead, a recognition of Jerusalem not only as an earthly city, but as a time in this world for which we strive, for which we continuously hope.
לשנה הבאה בירושלים לשנה הבאה בירושלים, 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 לשנה הבאה בירושלים.
We invite you to rise as we turn back in our prayer books as we conclude our service with Kiddush and Motzi before the Passover friendly snack that you might choose to eat. That's your call. I can't help you. We're on page 5 in your prayer book.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, borei pari hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'ratzavanu v'shabbat kodesho be'ahava u'beratzon hinchilanu, zikaron lema'asei v'reishit, ki hu yom techila lemikrai kodesh, zecher litziyat mitzrayim, kivanu v'charta ve'otanu kidashta mikol ha'amim, v'shabbat kodshecha be'ahava u'beratzon hinchaltanu. Baruch atah Adonai mekadesh ha-shabbat. Amen. L'chaim.
The good news is that the blessing said over matzah any time other than your Passover Seder is simply the blessing for hamotzi. We're not commanded to eat this stuff any time other than the Passover Seder. There does happen to be enough for anyone who might want as we join together in our blessing over material goodness in this world. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, hamotzi lechem min haaretz b'te'avon. Bon appetit. Enjoy your Passover cookies. Shabbat Shalom, friends.
Shabbat Shalom.
Oh, say shalom, b'imroma. Oh, say shalom, b'imroma. Hu ya'aseh shalom. Hu ya'aseh shalom. Hu ya'aseh shalom. Aleinu. Be the one who makes peace, bring peace down, bring peace down. Be the one who makes peace, bring peace down, bring peace down. Be the one who makes peace, bring peace down, bring peace down. Be the one who makes peace, bring peace down, bring peace down.
יעשה שלום, הוא יעשה שלום.